you guys so much for attending How to Write an Ethical Marketing Message to Fill Your Practice webinar featuring Kelly Higdon, licensed marriage and family therapist. Kelly is the co-founder of ZinnyMe and Business School for Therapists, the largest online business training program for private practice owners that focuses on building a profitable practice that also gets great clinical outcomes. She's been helping therapists start, grow, revamp, and sustain solo and group practices since 2010, and is on a mission to change the fact that therapists are in the top 5 worst master's degree for pay. I'm your host, Andrea Camp. I'm one of the sales managers with TherapySites, and we specialize in building websites and online marketing strategies for mental health professionals. I'd like to personally welcome each and every one of you to this free educational event. During today's session, Kelly may ask some questions of you guys, and we'd love for you to participate. So if you want to take a look at the GoToWebinar control panel, there you'll see a questions section or questions tab. Feel free to use this tab to answer any questions, ask any of your own questions, and make any comments that you feel are relevant to the conversation. After the webinar has been concluded, we will provide a quick survey. We'd love to hear your feedback. So now that we have all that taken care of, let's meet our presenter, Kelly Higdon. Take it away, Kelly. And you're muted. Hold on one second.
I got it.
There you go. Okay, you're perfect.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. It's so great to be here. I really enjoy doing these with TherapySites. For those of you that are here, I would love to hear in the chat, why are you here? What do you want to walk away with at the end of this training? You notice that we added a little clarifier on our title about writing an ethical marketing message in the age of AI. Why is that? I think now more than ever, human written content is important and highly valued, not only to the clients that are going to be seeking you out, but also to Google and these other search engines and AI as to who they recommend. And an ethical marketing message is going to help you really stand out so that you are referred the right kinds of clients. So that's why we add that kind of caveat to our title. I'm Kelly, as Andrew said. Miranda is my business partner. We are the founders of ZinnyMe, and we came together in 2010 to really help therapists bridge the gap between what it takes to get great clinical outcomes and what it takes to run a successful private practice. Those two things go hand in hand, because we feel that that is a definition of success, not only just profitability and not just sustainability to the clinician, but also great clinical outcomes for our clients. Who here agrees? I would hope we all agree on that. Everything we teach is at the intersection of better for you and your clients. So the plan today, we are gonna deep dive for about 50 minutes or so into the why and what you need to create an ethical marketing message that fills your practice. We'll look at how to integrate your clinical expertise and your clinical outcomes into your messaging, because that's how you're going to get better clinical outcomes in the future. And then we'll look at some examples of what these messages look like and how they lead to really healthy, full practices that are getting great clinical outcomes. I'm so sorry, I meant to mute. All right, and by the end of this training, we want you to walk away with like a template and maybe even a rough draft for you to use on your own with a unique marketing message that speaks to your ideal client. So I highly recommend having a pad of paper or some place where you can type as we're going along here, because by the end, you should have some ideas around your messaging and what you want to do with it. So why do we do 40 minutes, 50 minutes of deep training? We find like any more than that, your brain kind of shuts down. So this is what we have found has been the sweet spot for people to take some action. And we want to be sure you take some action. So after that time, I'm going to stick around for questions, and I welcome them, because that's really how we apply this specifically to you. Okay, and let's see, if that sounds good to you, then let's keep going on. All right, so part one, how and why to integrate your clinical expertise into your marketing message. We must integrate our clinical experience. And many of you wonder, why can't I just have someone else do this part for me, right? Can I hire a ghostwriter or somebody just to write the message? Or why can't I just use the marketing message that someone in another state had success with? Like, can I just like piecemeal it together from things I've seen? If you remember those code of ethics you learned about in grad school and that you were likely tested on during licensing, did you know that most, if not all, ethical codes require us to integrate our clinical experience into our marketing? And your clinical experience isn't the same as others, okay? Were you thinking about marketing private practice or online tech employers when you studied ethics? Probably not. I've been licensed a long time, and a lot has changed. And in fact, when Miranda and I started our own practices, having a website was often thought to be unethical. It was very controversial at the time. Wow, think about that. So how many ethical codes do you have? Every professional association you're a part of, you're agreeing to their code of ethics. In fact, some certifications and trainings come with professional conduct codes and codes of ethics. And if you aren't a part of a professional organization, that doesn't make you exempt. It just might make it more unclear what code of ethics to follow. So I happen to be a marriage family therapist licensed in California. So I'm going to give some examples of how specific state codes of ethics can get. And this is what CAMPT, California Association of Marriage Family Therapists, has to say. Assuring accuracy. Marriage and family therapists take reasonable steps to assure that advertisements and publications, whether in directories, business cards, newspapers, radio, television, websites, emails, social media, or any other media, are formulated to convey accurate information to the public. Do you know how to ethically and accurately describe what you do so that the average person can understand? Are you able to accurately describe to yourself what you do in terms you understand? And do you know what it takes for your clients to get great therapy outcomes? And are you conveying that accurately in your communication and in your marketing? So here's some examples of not assuring accuracy. When we use jargon that the average person won't understand. When we are so vague that we aren't conveying any hope for things improving. When we have a random list of diagnoses or symptoms, or we have a list of modalities without any context, right? So let's look at another example from CAMPT, right? Advertising. Marriage and family therapists do not use any means of media if it includes a statement or claim that is false, fraudulent, misleading, or deceptive. If it contains a material misrepresentation of fact, omits any fact necessary to make the statement not misleading, or is intended to or is likely to create an unjustified expectation. So does your marketing or that of your employer or the tech company, if you work for one of those, accurately describe what you do? And are you communicating what is required of the client to get great outcomes? And are you advertising one thing and providing another? You might be wondering, like, what would that look like, right? Your ethical codes likely talk about any kind of media. And this means not just your website or your business card. This is also any directory you're listed on, any employer that lists or advertises you, and any resource that you use that lists or advertises your services, okay? So here's an example of unethical advertising. A directory purposefully advertising your white therapist listing when the person is searching for a Black therapist near them. This is an example of something that we've seen happen often. Advertising modalities that need a particular frequency to get an outcome and not being clear about that frequency, or onboarding clients when you don't actually have availability for the frequency needed. So a lot of times we miss out in our messaging, really talking about the process and being clear about what it takes to get great clinical outcomes when working with you. Let's look at another example, okay? Informed decision making. Marriage and family therapists respect the rights of clients, patients to choose whether to enter into, to remain in, or to leave the therapeutic relationship. When significant decisions need to be made, marriage and family therapists provide adequate information to clients, patients in clear and understandable language so that clients and patients can make meaningful decisions about their therapy. So some examples of not informed decision making: not being clear about what to expect in therapy with you, not being clear about your availability, not being clear about what you do or don't do and who you don't serve. We could probably go on and on about this, about ethical codes and how it ties back into marketing. But I just want to show you a taste about how your marketing is an ethics issue. And sometimes we're so fearful that we end up not saying anything, when really more clarity is kind and helpful to people looking for support. So whether you are an employer or you're a contractor, if you're self-employed or you are contracting with other businesses to perform a service for you, your ethical obligations don't change. This is really important to know if you're working for, some of these platforms. If you're using directory services, it's still important that we have ethical messaging. And our code of ethics are the minimum standard in place. And we know that most therapists want to go above and beyond in their ethical marketing to clients. So before we write your ethical marketing message, we want you to learn a very important skill. Remember all the vocabulary you learned in grad school, right? It's called jargon. It's a lot to unlearn. A lot of it is so ingrained in us. So using terminology that is common amongst colleagues, but not amongst clients, can create a barrier to accessing mental health care. The way our clients talk about therapy is better and more communicative than our technical jargon can be. And the way we unlearn the jargon is by listening to what our clients say about therapy. That's super important. So when you have outcomes conversations or reflect after each session and check in, pay attention to what your clients say is working in therapy, how you help, and what they experienced. So by using their words in our messaging, we make our message accessible for others. So I want to give an example of this. I would check in. I had a client that came to me who was trying to decide whether to get a divorce. And by, midway through our time together, I had done another check-in about how are things going? How are you feeling about the process? Are you satisfied with the outcomes you're getting? We had this conversation, and one of the things that she said to me, she said, Kelly, when I first came in, it was like I was staring down this long, dark tunnel. And after my first session, I saw a pin of light at the end of it. And as we've been working together, the light is getting brighter and brighter. And she's like, and I know that you're holding the light at the end of that tunnel. And I use that as part of my messaging. It still gives me goosebumps because it's such a beautiful description of what hope happens, how hope happens in therapy. So you might be like, I get that I shouldn't use jargon, but how do I integrate my clinical experience? How do I actually do that in reality? So I have a template for you to follow to create a message that deeply speaks to clients using language that they can really connect with. And you'll be able to put together a rough draft today if you choose. This is, if you can scan it with your phone, it's a Google Doc. And let's just say, I don't know if we can put up the link to this as well. I will share that in the chat. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can paste it in here. Here we go. This is also the link you can click to get that worksheet. You just have to have Google to access it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So a transformational message. What is that? What does that even mean? This is one that meets the future client where they are at. It speaks to them in such a way that they feel like you know them. They may even wonder if you were hanging out in their house last night when they were crying over what had happened at work or the argument that they had with their spouse. And that kind of connection is therapeutic. So before you even have your first session, it tells a person, I see you, you aren't alone. There is someone in the world that understands and knows how to help you through it. And that is the beginning of attunement. Therapeutic attunement happens in our marketing, right? So our business schoolers will often share, like, I had a call today and the person said that they felt like my website was speaking directly to them. They just knew that I could help them based on what I wrote before they had even spoken to me. There's rapport, there's trust before they've even shared a phone conversation. Can you see how that makes the first conversation so much more helpful for you and the client? Just imagine the impact of that connection on the first session and beyond when you have a message that really is resonant and connecting, right? So how do these compare? Let's talk about that. One side of you knows exactly what we're talking about, but another part of you is kind of jargon blind. And so you're used to statements that you don't even realize that what this information may sound like to the outside world. Which of these two messages are more compelling, right? What sticks out in your head and what do you remember, right? I provide a safe and non-judgmental space for couples in conflict utilizing Gottman and EFT. Or I help angry couples to rediscover their love and heal the past hurt so they can live without the daily conflict. You want a message that's ethical, clear, and transformational. And that message could be something you share in an elevator, on your website, in a directory, on a video. It doesn't matter the medium, social media, whatever. Many of you want to just get to how to do the marketing, but the marketing message is the basis for all of your successful marketing strategies. And marketing an unethical message, even if it's well-meaning, breaks your code of ethics. So just for today, let's get clear on your ethical, compelling message, because without that ethical, compelling message, it won't matter how many places you list your website, how many times you share on social media, or how many ads you send to your website. You will not easily attract the clients that you need to have for a stable and successful practice, right? Your message is the difference between action and inaction, between people staying stuck and people getting healing, between people getting the help they desire or being all alone with their pain. So I'm going to show you how to take the language from your clients and any outcomes data you have and transform it into a compelling, connected, and meaningful message that's going to encourage the right clients to call you. This formula that we're going to teach you is something we teach in our business school and something that we help our students refine. So to be honest, I think I've written content for over 1,000 therapist websites. I've supported the process and really helped therapists hone in on. And between myself and Miranda, we've read tens of thousands of web pages. Every live working session, we give feedback on this messaging. So I'm sharing this because I want you to know I might make this look and sound easy, but it does take practice. I've just been doing it a long time. So if this feels a little different than what you've seen on other websites, that's okay too. So we're going to ask you to do 3 things in this message. We want you to be real and authentic, be clear about the transformation your clients are looking for, and let them know what to do next. We call this formula the Authentic Transformation Proposition, or ATP. And guess what? You already do this every single day. Every single day, you have real, authentic conversations with people. You meet them where they're at. You give them options for taking action towards making the change that they desire. This is actually what you do. Therapists are really great at connection here. And I think we can do a better job at messaging than most because of the type of work we do. I know you can learn this and do this because I've taught thousands of therapists like you to do it. It doesn't matter if you're introvert or extrovert, ambivert, multilingual, group, super niched, queer, faith-based, general practice, rural, or city, really. This has worked for every kind of therapist out there. And I want to help you kind of learn this skill. So if you're ready, I would love to see in the chat. If you have a piece of paper, you're ready to kind of get to putting pen to paper, and we're going to walk through so that you walk away with this formula. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thanks for the thumbs up. I'm seeing them here. All right. Step 1. Let's meet your client where they're at. I want you to identify one client in particular that you'd really like to have more of in your practice. I know your brain is going to be like, I want to work with everybody. And if you have lots of clients you'd love to work with, you can come back, you can listen to the recording, you can redo this process for each type of client. But for now, I want you to choose just one. And if you're working with kiddos, you want to think of their parents. If you're working with other relationship dynamics, like where you have 2, 3, 4, 5 people in the room, you want to consider each person in the relationship that you work with. Ultimately, it's important to engage the person who's choosing when therapy starts or stops. So, okay, we're just going for one. I want you to think about conversations you've had with this client, either during your initial consult sessions or when you're tracking outcomes. And if you might be like, I'm not tracking outcomes, I want to encourage you moving forward to start doing that. We have a free training on that as well. And we teach this in business school about how to do it in a clinical format that really does improve clinical outcomes when you start integrating the tracking of clinical outcomes. So thinking of this one person, what did they say their daily life looked like immediately prior to starting therapy? If you think about the call you had with them, what was going on in their life on the daily that made them call you? What was the last straw when they decided to reach out to a therapist, and how did they find you? Did they go into Google or did they ask a friend? If you've never asked these questions of clients, it's a great time to start. So these are some good questions for your initial consult as well. Okay, we got this. All right, I want to show you Joanne Kim. She's a psychotherapist in San Jose, California, and she works with individuals struggling with replicating patterns in relationships. And you can tell who she works with, what they're going through, and what got them to the point that her client said, this is enough, I need help, okay? Let's listen to the message. By the time people reach out, they feel depleted, burned out, resentful, and ashamed that they feel this way. They're exhausted by anxiety, guilt, shame, and an allergic reaction to anger. I'm not good enough, and what's wrong with me are too familiar. Often told that they're too emotional or too sensitive, they try their best to stuff their emotions, only to have them leak out or explode, proving that they are too much. They feel guilty for not being better and should themselves. They feel like they're selfish for wanting a break or comfort. Sound familiar? You end up in hurtful relationships, but you just want to be loved. You're sick of fighting because you feel rejected or misunderstood. Your emotions are jumbled up with others and they feel overwhelming. You feel stuck, hurt, and alone. Is it clear who Joanne likes working with, right? Here's another example, much shorter. Erin is a play therapist in Colorado who offers play therapy and parent coaching. And while she sees kids, she has to speak to the parents because they're the ones trying to make the decision about therapy. Here she speaks to how parents often feel before they call her. Your kid is a great little human, but some days the things that they do, say, and experience are so intense, and you are at a loss of what they need or how to respond. Can you imagine being that parent, be like, yeah, that's me, right? When you have a message that connects and converts into clients, you end up getting more clients that are a good fit for the work you do. That results in better clinical outcomes and less burnout for you. A transformational message will also weed out the people who aren't a good fit and direct them to where they need to go, which, to be honest, is helpful to them because no one wants to spend their time calling a list of therapists that aren't the right fit. They want to get the help they need sooner than later. So let's be honest, you can't work with everyone. Nobody really wants to work with everyone. The more focused you are on who you can help, it will improve your outcomes as well. So when you integrate your client's languaging and client's outcomes into this messaging, you move into establishing trust in future therapeutic relationships because you elicit the person reading or hearing the message to take action, which means more people get help, and that reduces the stigma and normalizes attending therapy. Okay? I know that a lot of you have seen a lot of people talk about marketing messages and that many of them feel gross and salesy. I don't want to ever ask you to say anything that feels icky. Okay? I won't offer anything. I don't want you to offer anything that you don't believe in. This, you can't lie to people. You don't need to mislead them. You don't go against your code of ethics. You ensure that you have the skill and the expertise to help them. You are not salesy and slimy, right? Ask yourself, are you trying to take advantage of people or trick them into working with you? I really hope not. There's a clear difference between marketing and taking advantage of people, and we're here to help you find the people who you can help well, okay? Now let's go back to your ideal client and what their daily life looks like right before they call for therapy. What is happening for them? What are the little things that keep adding up to lead them to reach out? Or is it just one big event that rocks their world? People live in pain for a long time often, and what made this client decide it was enough and to reach out for help is important to look at. So I'm going to give us 2 minutes to start writing this out, really painting a picture like you're the fly on the wall, right? Focus on one client, just one client right now that's going to make the difference. So let me hit the stopwatch and we'll do 2 minutes on the clock. Sometimes I like to write about the day that they had when they decided to get therapy or reach out, right? What was the interaction? What was the feeling? What were they going through in that day? So if you've just arrived, we're doing an exercise of writing down what one client that we really love working with, what their daily life was like before they got help. Really understanding the pain points. Have 1 more minute. About 20 more seconds. I will say the more you can write, the better, because it gives you a lot to glean from in your messaging. But this is just to give you a start, to give you a little practice, a little taste. After this training, I want you to go back and continue with the details, okay? So 2 minutes goes by fast. I want you to be really kind to yourself. And it's okay if it's really rough, it needs some work and tweaking. I just want you to congratulate yourself for trying something and delving into your client's experience. How are you feeling after writing this? What is that experience like? If you want to share in the chat, and if you want to share your rough draft in the chat and be bold and brave, I welcome that as well. And then even when we get to Q&A, I could probably help you some with your messaging. All right. I know it can be disorienting doing this, but at the core, you are empathizing with someone's pain by describing it. That is your wonder skill as a therapist. Yes, you may see many types of clients, but for now, we're just focusing on one, even if it feels counterintuitive. You will still attract diversity in your practice, but you have to start somewhere, okay? If you're working with kids or teens, one fun tip is to really think about the favorite parents that you've worked with and write your website to attract the kind of parents that allow you to do your best work, all right? All right, we started the process of really painting a picture and speaking to our client's pain. So now let's talk about one of the most important parts of creating an ethical marketing message: how and why to integrate what you know about your clinical outcomes into your marketing, okay? If we just describe the pain and frustration that someone is in, that isn't particularly helpful. We see people sharing pain and complaining on social media all the time. We don't need more of that. In step 2, though, we're going to move from validating their experience and into providing them hope for the future. This isn't the time for false promises, crazy claims, but it also isn't the time to offer platitudes or vague hints of how you help. You need to let people know how you help and how you work. This is real informed consent, which is part of our ethical codes. So for those favorite clients, here are some questions we could ask ourselves or our clients. What do you recall feeling during and immediately after that first session? What has changed for you since you've been in therapy? What has it been like to come to therapy and to be in this room together? What has been the most helpful part of therapy? Looking forward, what would you need to change for you to know that you are ready to graduate? These are questions that I encourage you to integrate into your work with clients even now. But for right now, still holding that ideal client, maybe you can then step into their shoes and kind of imagine what they might say to these questions. So here's step 2 from Joanne. She really talks about what to expect in therapy and the transformation that therapy can provide. She uses language that the clients use and can understand. And as I read this, I want to ask you if you see hope. Do you see a picture of what can be, right? Therapy involves weekly 50-minute sessions for 40-ish weeks, so we build and work off good momentum. Using the Enneagram to discover your patterns of thinking, feeling, and doing that create those painful and rigid knots in your life and relationships. Using brain spotting to massage out more stubborn, trauma-based knots that you can't just work out by yourself. Making incremental but lasting changes to how you live and create new muscle memory. Finding relief and gaining access to your whole being so you can live and love well in ways both you and your loved ones need. By the end of therapy, you will work with your emotions, know your self-worth, advocate for your needs without "I'm sorry." Use boundaries to protect what matters to you, make your relationships more mutually beneficial, live in self-control, not others' control or controlled, and learn to enjoy life and rest without guilt. What does that look like for someone who works with kids? Speaking to the parents. My name is Erin Bennett, and I am an expert in all things kids. I can help you finally get to the bottom of what your unique child needs to thrive, experience joy, and be healthy. Whether I work with your child directly through play therapy or teach you my wizard ways through parent coaching, we will get to the bottom of your child's needs so you and your family feel confident, happy, and in flow. Okay, it's your turn. And don't focus on comparison. Your message is going to be uniquely yours. Joanne and Erin have been doing this for a long time, and you're just working on that rough draft today. So we're going to take another 2 minutes and start to go back to those questions to tap back into the words that your clients use to describe what therapy is like with you, how it helps. And I'll just paste these questions if I can. Let me see if I can. Oh, it won't let me. I'll go back to the slide so you can see those questions again. And we'll start the clock. You want to talk about how you help. You may talk about the frequency, the length of treatment that most of the clients you work with stay with. You may want to talk about what other clients have experienced or say about working with you, or what it's like to be in the room with you. This is more than hold space, non-judgmental. What is it like to sit with you as a therapist? What kinds of things do you do or say? About 30 more seconds here. All right. So now you have the start of that rough draft for your part 2. I want you to just check in, feel your body for a moment. Notice your breath. What is it like to give words to what you often innately do? I know that it can be hard when you're still working out the kinks, but a supportive community to try things out with can be so powerful as you are honing your marketing message. So you're welcome to share your part 2 if you want. We've been teaching this exact formula since 2010. And I know it may think like it's 16 years later. But the way we connect with people, it doesn't change, you know? Really seeing people is what allows attunement. But I've also seen that this is where therapists get stuck because we're bred or raised up in this field to get really fearful of making false promises. Or we don't want to give unrealistic expectations, but we get so fearful that we don't give any expectation. If you've ever looked at one of those treatment planner books, the first goal of treatment is always installation of hope. How do we instill hope? What does that actually look like? And we've come to realize that clients need to know that somebody gets them and is willing to help them find that path for change. There's one promise that you can make. And this is a promise both Miranda and I had with our clients. I can't promise how quickly you'll reach your goals or even that I can help, but I can promise that I will do my best. And if what we're doing is not working, we will change it until it does, or I will help you find someone that can help. That instills hope in them that you care about their progress deeply. And that is your ultimate goal, not just a paycheck. So that is a promise you can make when you're on the phone with a client who's wondering about therapy with you. But you can speak to often my clients' experience. This is what they say, you know? Really, if you can just be more clear, it helps the client make a decision more easily. And that's improving access to mental health care. All right. Step 3. This is time for taking action. You've painted a picture of their experience. You shared who you are, how you help, and now you need to invite them to take action. So for many of you, that will involve asking them to call you for a free 15-minute phone consult, or maybe it's scheduling their first appointment online. For some of you, it might look like getting them on your newsletter. Different therapists have different objectives on their website, depending if their caseload is full and such. But if you're trying to fill your caseload, it's usually your onboarding process for your clients. So your call to action is going to let the person know what their next step is and what the benefit of taking that next step is. Okay, here's step 3 from Joanne, where she's clear she offers virtual counseling and that booking a consult to learn how to get started is the next step. Where do I begin? That's easy. Book your 15-minute consult call for virtual counseling today, right? Simple. Erin, her goal is to get parents to dig deeper into learning about her services or to schedule a consultation. So her call to action is learn more about play therapy, parent coaching, and contact me for a free 15-minute phone call consultation today here. My counseling service offices are in Littleton, Colorado, and I can also provide parent coaching to Colorado residents. Can you imagine? I can be a bug in your ear at home while your kid is having a meltdown and walk you step by step through how to respond. So cool. So notice that her call to action is personable, and it even integrates some keywords for SEO, for her ranking on Google and things like that. And while we're not going to talk about SEO, there's just like so much value in what she's saying here today. It really speaks to the value of like working with her and the process of what's next. All right. Your client, your future client, is likely in a certain amount of distress, and they're truly trying to figure out what to do next. Sometimes it's just nice to know what the next step is when you are in pain and struggling. And you may think it's obvious, but we need to make it really, really easy for people to reach us. Your confidence about how you help is key here. Showing them that you can guide them through the process is important. And I want you to remember that if you're attracting the right clients, it will make those initial consult conversations so much easier. And this is a skill that you can learn, right? We've taught thousands of therapists how to have those conversations. I feel confident I can teach you too. You can do this, right? But when someone's like, I resonated, and they call you, you're just working off of that energy to further help them make a good decision. So let's take 2 minutes to write out what action you want someone to take and how it will help them. And if you don't have a full practice making a great income, we highly recommend your call to action be a call to schedule a free 15-minute phone consult. That could be the next step for any type of online marketing. We don't recommend, if you're not full, just having people join your newsletter or email list, right? If your practice is struggling, go for the call to action for the consult. And what is the value of doing that consult? So I'm going to start the timer here. But consults will help them get their questions answered. It gives you a brief assessment so you can determine if you can be helpful. It helps them come up with a plan. It helps them start taking action towards their healing immediately. So there's so much value in it. Can you speak to that and show them what to do next? I have one more minute. All right. Now you have all 3 steps done, but you still may have some questions. Like, is this a false promise? Like, when does it become a false promise? Never do you give a guarantee in your messaging, but we have to share the possibilities and your experience with outcomes. You can speak to those. We know therapy works. We should share that. It's unkind not to give clients any hope that things can get better. I want you to remember, if you follow your ethics, you will refer out someone if you aren't the right fit or they aren't making progress and you're finding like your interventions don't work and they need something different. Another thing that can come up a lot when doing this messaging is the question of like, I'm afraid someone will feel left out or rejected because it doesn't connect to them. Okay, I want you to imagine you specialize in working with parents and changing their parenting strategies. If you get a call from a parent who's convinced that their kid is the problem and is not interested in digging into parenting strategies for your unique kids, right? Maybe it's okay if they don't call you and they find a therapist who better fits where they're at right now. You don't want to reject people with your words. You want to help them make the best decision for them. And if that isn't you, that's okay. You want people you know that you can help, right? Take that in for a moment. And what if you work with a lot of different groups of people? That's okay too. We encourage you to have a page on your website for each of your niches, each of the kinds of groupings of ideal clients that you want to work with. You wouldn't stand up and give a talk that just briefly listed all of your skills. So you would tailor the talk to the needs of the audience, right? And that's what your website is for. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by the amount of work it takes to do that writing and market all those different things, that might be a sign to narrow down to like your top 2 or 3 or 5 clients just based on time and energy. I think there's something we forget is that we have time. We don't have to fit every client and see every client right now. There's an arc to our work. And people go through phases, and you can pivot and change. You're never locked in, but you just have to start somewhere. What if niching to a particular client isn't your focus as much as the way you work or the modality you use? And that's okay. You still need to find the commonalities your ideal clients are experiencing. Like maybe you do brain spotting and your ideal client is someone who feels stuck after years of therapy. So, an example of what you might write. You've been going to therapy week after week, year after year. You feel heard, you feel validated, but you don't feel different. You feel like you've just become an expert on your quirks and foibles, but what you deeply want is to release and let go of. What you deeply want to release and let go of just keeps swirling around in your head and in your body. I work with a cutting edge therapy technique that has allowed my clients to make breakthroughs quickly and effectively and feel real deep change. Contact me for a free 15-minute phone consult and find out how therapy with me using brain spotting can help you break through your stuck spot. What if you had a group practice? If you have a group practice, you will get to know your clinicians and create marketing messages for your clinicians that bring them the best clients they can retain and get great outcomes with one page at a time. Also, if you are a group practice owner, your hiring of people should fit into the vision. So let's say you want a practice full of couples therapists, right? That way the messaging doesn't have to, adapt to every clinician. There is a theme to the practice. Or maybe all of your clinicians offer brain spotting, and then there's different areas of expertise with the brain spotting. So there is some strategy when you are a group practice as to if you write to the clinician, if you write to the niche, or the service, right? One other thing that comes up too is fear of being judged by other therapists, really. You teach your clients to be themselves, speak their truth, feel clear and confident, and you deserve the same for you in your private practice. So if other therapists are judging you, it's a reflection of their own stuff. You're here to help clients, not impress your colleagues. So I would love to see your rough draft marketing message. If you want to put all 3 steps, type them into the comment. I would love to support you. I'm going to stick around for a bit here where I can help you with the message, tweak it, give feedback if you want some coaching around it, or if you have questions about this process. Okay, so do you feel more clear? Like how to integrate your clinical experience into your marketing message without the jargon, right? You should have a template for how to do your marketing message with the 3 steps, looking at how you integrate clinical outcomes into your messaging and examples. We've gone over some examples of marketing messages that have led to filling a practice. This is such a small piece of what we teach. There's so much to this, right? Like, if you want to learn more about what we do for practices, since 2010, we've helped therapists navigate recessions and pandemics and now the AI revolution. And many have rebuilt their practices with us. They've moved to private pay, they've expanded, they specialized. In our business school, you get a full step-by-step roadmap, and the syllabus is the roadmap that you can download to see what's involved. You get coaching, group coaching, community, weekly office hours, clinical consultation, tools for SEO, templates, and you can start for as low as $50 a month. So for your first month, and then after that, it's $250. So you can learn more. You can go to zinnyme.com/syllabus and you get the exact roadmap that we give therapists, and you will see what we've taught today in that roadmap as well.
Thank you so much, Kelly. What a great presentation. You shared so much, like, really great information about writing an ethical marketing message. I think everybody here really appreciates the time you spent and the pauses in between to let everybody kind of just take a breath
Mhm.
and work on it individually. So thank you guys. Thank you so much. Again, just to introduce myself, I'm Andrea Camp. I'm one of the sales managers with TherapySites. At TherapySites, we work with mental health professionals like yourselves to help build and create a professional looking website and ensure that you can be found online where and when clients are searching in order to help increase new client acquisition. We encourage the practices we work with to build a website that's a reflection of themselves, which is much of the topic today, but also to help create a marketing strategy that allows them to achieve the goals that they've set out. Our solutions make it easy to get the practice found online for the services most important to the practice, create a network of referrals via social media, and even the ability to interact with clients from virtually anywhere from our telehealth platform. So as a special thank you for being here today, we are extending a special webinar offer to get a brand new beautiful website designed for just $99 plus 3 months of any marketing service complimentary with TherapySites. So if you'd like to learn more, feel free to reach out to us. You can send us a quick email or give us a call. Our email is webinar@therapysites.com, and our phone number is 866-597-2674, and I'll throw that in the chat as well so that you've got our contact information. I also threw in the link to Zinni.me/syllabus, so that is there as well.
Thank you.
We do have a couple of minutes before the top of the hour, and I know we had a couple of questions come in. So we may be able to answer a few of those while some of the folks are copying and pasting, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, if people don't want cooking, that's fine.
I know everybody's being shy today. Let's just be honest. So you talked earlier about not using jargon, and we had a couple of questions come in regards to how do I incorporate like my particular method of therapy without using maybe my particular method, if that's being looked at as jargon.
Yeah, I don't think like there are some. You have to be aware of what people are searching. Like, for example, there is a day when EMDR, no one knew what the heck it is.
Yeah.
And now people do know. But
Right.
What is EMDR really? It's a way to process trauma from a place that is embodied, where people can feel their feelings, but they don't have to necessarily talk to move through, and it can make new connections in the brain. So sometimes somebody will say, okay, what does that look like? Well, we'll meet for a few sessions where we'll create safety and really help your nervous system to find resourcing within, right? What would be a different version of saying resourcing? Like finding safety within yourself and trusting the process so that you can dive into some of the stuff that you've been avoiding all this time. We'll make sure you feel safe along the way. Yeah. Then we'll take a few sessions where we use EMDR. I have different tools and approaches for each person. This is a brain-based, research, evidence-based kind of practice. Sometimes people will go into the description of what it could look like, but giving them the arc of what that means. It doesn't mean you come into your first session and you do EMDR.
Right.
There's a setup to it versus ART, right? Accelerated resolution trauma therapy. That's very quick. It could be just a couple of sessions. And so being clear about really the process and what it looks like and what it feels like to the client is going to be your best bet. It doesn't mean you can't say, I do ART or Gottman or whatever. It's important that you talk about what that looks like in the session, how that shows up, the experience of the client. What kinds of things are you doing?
Right. So we had a licensed clinical social worker chime in and she had asked, hey, I work with individuals, groups, couples, families. How do I pare that down to maybe more of a specialty or a niche in kind of this mantra?
So when you work with a lot of different kinds of services, right? So I have group therapy, I do couples therapy, I do family therapy, and individual therapy.
Yep.
We look at all of the different people that come to that, but we also want to look at what's the thread. Is the thread the way you work with them, or the kind of person that would come in. So maybe there's a trauma thread, a thread of anxiety throughout all of those clients. Or maybe you're doing, you know, EFT with all of them, or you're, you know,
Yeah.
brain spotting with all of them. So that becomes kind of like the homepage, the landing page of like
Okay.
the universe. And then each of those pages of like individual therapy or group therapy get their own message, because the message for someone who's interested in group therapy, like they need to understand how group therapy works, the process, why it's beneficial, what kind of outcomes to expect. You know, it's going to be different than a couples therapist.
Sure.
So I know it can feel like, oh gosh, I do all of these things. And it's like,
Right.
okay, cool. So we just take one thing and we learn to write with this kind of formula, and then we
Mm-hmm.
can do a page for each of the different things we offer.
Gotcha. Somebody had asked just about attending and CE credit. Is that something that's traditionally offered in these types of sessions, or is that part of your individual like platform, basically?
Yeah, we offer CEs through our business school.
Okay.
Actually, we even pay for the CEs that you get. You get 32 hours when you do business school, and we pay for 50 CE credits through Aspira CE. Our free trainings used to have CEs. The APA changed some things, and Aspira can only manage our business school at this time.
Okay.
We're trying to get a couple free trainings done. So,
Yep. Okay.
yeah.
One other question came in. So in today's day and age, we want to be available to our clients as much as possible. And the question kind of came up is like when we were identifying the next step, do I want to offer call me, email me, text me, like a consultation, an appointment? Like it starts to feel like I'm trying to offer
Well, yeah.
availability across the board.
Imagine when someone's like, I don't know, we'll just say, I want this salad. And then they're like, would you like ranch, honey mustard, vinaigrette? And they just keep going and going. And
Right.
it's like, I don't even know what you said at the beginning anymore. Versus if
Right.
they said, you want ranch or vinegar? Then you
Right.
can pick between the two. The more options you give, the more indecision you create.
Yeah.
And I really think looking at your process from the perspective of what is ideal for you? What can you manage? Because if you have people calling you and you don't pick up the phone, that's
Right.
not really great.
Right.
Right. So if you do better with, hey, if they schedule an appointment in my calendar for a 15-minute consult, that works better for me.
Right.
Cool.
Okay.
Do what kind of aligns with
Okay.
your nervous system and the way your brain works.
That's a good point because so many practitioners, obviously from a therapy side, and we build the website. It's like I'm available here. You contact me here, contact me here, contact me here, and it starts to feel like okay, wow, what? That's a lot.
Yeah, it's too much. It's
Too
overwhelming.
much, too much, too much.
I
Let me
think the
see.
same, can I just add? I think the
Yeah,
same thing goes for like niche and what we're talking about here of like, oh, I work with anxiety, and you start listing all the things.
yeah,
Sounds like at some point, do you specialize in all of those things? Like,
right.
how are you doing the training and the CEs and keeping up to date on the research of all of those niches?
Yeah,
I mean, it's overwhelming to a client. And
yeah,
then they're like, I don't,
yeah.
do you work with me? You know,
Right,
it
right.
becomes the ultimate
So it's
question.
so funny coming from my perspective from the marketing and the website side of things. It's the uniqueness of the practice, the uniqueness of the provider,
Mhm.
the, frequently asked questions, the question and answers like for a particular method or a particular group is
Mhm.
what really allows that provider and that practice and that website to stand out amongst competitors, right? Because there are so many therapists, so many counselors out there where it's you can't you can't all be the end all be all to all of the different
Mm-mm.
platforms and all the different people and all the different groups. It just becomes too much. So
Mhm.
cool. Well, we're a couple minutes over. Thank you for sticking around.
Yeah.
I think we had a couple of drafts that might have flown into the question section. But just for those of you that are still around, just as in case, this recording will be provided. So you will be able to see all the slides. You will be able to see, everything and hear everything from the session today. If you guys do have other questions, feel free to reach out to webinar@TherapySites. We'll be happy to help in any way we can. And I did provide the Zinnie.me/syllabus, as well as website, the webinar at TherapySites, and our contact information. So I think I covered all my bases.
Great.
Thank you guys, everybody, for attending. Thank you, Kelly, for joining and
Thank you.
participating in the event. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Same for all of you folks. Thank you so much. We're getting some like claps, we're getting some
Yes.
hearts, we're getting some thumbs up. So again,
Great.
thank you guys for being here, and we really appreciate it. Have a good rest of the afternoon.
Bye.